Hello and welcome to my coverage of the 2024 Atlas Mountain Race. This is a race report, so let's have a look and see what happened. Now, if you're not familiar with the Atlas Mountain Race, then you can check out my preview video. But essentially, it's a 1,300 kilometer bikepacking event around Morocco. There's 3 checkpoints, and it starts in Marrakesh and finishes on the seaside town of Izouria. So yeah, that's the website. Tracking was on Map Progress, and you can also check out their Instagram Atlas Mountain Race. There's loads of really good stories and reels and photos on there. So yeah, maybe watch this and then go and check that out, and you might be able to put a bit more life to the whole event. Before I go any further, I need to say a big thank you to Redshift, who are sponsoring my Atlas Mountain Race coverage. I've been using their Shockstock Pro suspension seat post. I've used it in actually the 2 Atlas Mountain Races I've participated in, 2022 and the one that's just gone. I arrived home yesterday. So yeah, big thank you to those guys. The suspension seat post makes a really big difference on these rough tracks. Just allows you to sit down and pedal and just save your back a bit, save a bit of energy. So yeah, really useful bit of kit for bikepacking. I've got a discount code. I'll put that in the description below. So check those guys out. And of course, big thank you to RideWithGPS for carrying on their support with all my coverage through all the races. And I'm going to be digging into the race route. You can see it here, 810 miles. It's just over 20,000 meters of climbing overall. So I'm going to take a look at the tracker. So try and describe what happened at the head of the race. Obviously, there was 250 participants in this event. I'm not going to be able to cover everything, so I'm going to stick to the front of the men's and the women's fields just to give it, just as that's what I'm sort of familiar with, sort of being at that end of the race while I was out there. And I've got a load of video that I can show you and bring the route to life as well. So we need to start. Start at the beginning, I suppose, and there was drama before the race even started. So the race was scheduled to start at 6 p.m. On Friday, I think it was the 9th, but there was a massive storm forecast. There'd been no rain in sort of the area for almost 5 months. So Nelson, who is the race organizer, sent us this update. So essentially the local authorities said that the race can't start. It's too dangerous, and they need to delay by, well, it says 48 hours here, 24 hours here, but Nelson said that it could be 24, could be 48. There was no firm kind of time at all. So that was all relayed to us at the briefing at the start in Marrakesh. And then, yeah, as soon as everyone realised that they wouldn't be starting for another 24 hours, there was 200 riders queuing up in the race hotel trying to get another room. So I'm pretty sure that the race hotel was pretty pleased with that. But yeah, it made for a bit of a stressful and unpredictable start to the race. The next day, this was the next update we had. Still no decision from the authorities. So basically we were told to prepare for a 6 p.m. start outside the race hotel in Marrakesh. And yeah, everyone turned up and we didn't really know what was going to happen. And then when we got there, Nelson wasn't anywhere to be seen. He'd been trying to meet the authorities, trying to sort things out. And yeah, he showed up. All the riders were waiting. It was past 6 p.m. by this point. No one knows what's going on. Bear in mind, all our bags, bike bags, spare clothes had all been sent ahead in trucks to the finish line in Izouria. So yeah, we were stood there in our race kit. Most people have been in their race kit for 24 hours. And as you can imagine, there was plenty of nerves on the start line. And yeah, this was basically Nelson's speech just before the start.
Officially, the race has been cancelled. Fully. They say maybe tomorrow. Maybe at some point. So what I'm going to tell you is that it is your decision. If you want to still have your adventure in Morocco, that it is on your own responsibility, your own decision, but officially there is no authorization for the race. That does mean that there is no police escort at the start. So for 30 kilometers, there is a big group of cyclists and there is traffic. So that means that if you do want to start, then please ride very slowly, 20 kilometers an hour maximum, and you respect traffic laws, you respect traffic, and you respect each other's space when you're riding. But again, this is your decision. I can't stop you. I know how far people have come, how long they've trained, how much money they spent to be here. And I think that with weather like this, and the road open, there isn't really a reason.
So yeah, drama before the race had even started there. Nelson basically said to us, I mean, the authorities in Marrakesh had given the go-ahead to for the race to start. However, they hadn't. The other authorities in the other regions of Morocco hadn't given the go-ahead. Turns out later, Nelson had phoned them all, and none of them have actually heard from the central government. So basically, it was a bit of a shit show. No one was really interested in making it happen. It was the weekend, so obviously it's bureaucrats not wanting to do any work at the weekend. 200 riders sat there. It wasn't ideal. So Nelson took a bold move, and yeah, we kind of decided as a group that maybe we should just go for a nice group ride. So off we went. Into the sunset. Obviously it's dry by now, but all the rivers, the thing about Morocco is it's a very dry country, so as soon as it rains it dumps down in the mountains. It doesn't soak in and it just washes down really quickly, and you can see that it was dry there, but the rivers were quite high. There was some kind of changes. So normally this is the original race route you can see here on RideWithGPS, and you can see that it's primarily road on the start here. It's kind of a false flat uphill. Essentially it's flat when you're riding it. And then you get a few climbs, and then you get this big high point here, which is the highest point of the race, which is Tichka Pass, Telewet Pass. And we basically we avoided that, and we went over Tizi and Tichka Pass, which is this road you can see parallel here. So we went down the road, and then there's another small road that cuts in across to Telewet. So that was the diversion to start with. So essentially we missed the first hard part of the route, went over the road climb and cut in. Now this made for an interesting start. I mean, these starts are always interesting, but because of the flat nature of the start of this one, it was a big group, and then over the road pass there was a lot of people. Normally the off-road shakes out a lot of people who are sort of hanging on, or maybe not good technically, or maybe they're just really good at pedaling but not the rest of the bike racing thing. So yeah, there was a really big group, probably 30-40 riders going up this pass. I was in there for a while, and then I dropped out. I mean, I was doing 300 watts in there, so I was like, well, this just isn't sustainable. Dropped out, and still rode the pass pretty strongly, like a good strong tempo. And I came into the checkpoint in 33rd position. Let's have a look at my progress. So this is where the race was recorded. Personally, I think it's one of the better tracking systems, and you can see routing over the main road here. So I mean, you're not going to be able to see very much here, but I've highlighted the top 10 and the top 2 women who were the real instigators. So yeah, as you can see, it's just a large blob of dots at the moment. Started to spread out gradually, but there's not really much spread at all. And I think that the first 8 riders came in at 1 minute intervals into the checkpoint. So yeah, you can't really tell much this early on. It would have been 7.5, 8 hours to get there. Bearing in mind it started at 6 p.m, so all the riders are riding in the night. And then as we came into the dawn, you kind of start seeing a little bit of a group and a bit of a pattern forming. Now, if I head back over to RideWithGPS, you can see the Tichka Pass, and then you got a series of kind of off-road sections, gravel roads, bit of tarmac, but the tarmac in this area isn't always that good. And then some kind of this sort of off-piste sections would be fair to call them that. So let's have a little look at some video that shows that. So this was dawn on this. Well, it would have been the first morning of the race. As you can see, it's pretty beautiful. Not a cloud, well, barely a cloud in the sky. This was me riding with Lucas Clemets. Rode with him on Silk Road as well. He was one place ahead of me on Silk Road. And there's a series of dirt roads. The roads shown on RideWithGPS there. You can see the checkered parts on RideWithGPS are
roads, but out in Morocco sometimes that just means they're a graded gravel road. This is the off-piste section. Last year, well, not last year, 2022, I rode this in the dark. It's very difficult. It looks very samey. But got the first light over here, and it was, beautiful. Nice to be going. Nice to get through that first night and into the first proper day of the race.
So that was riding across this section here, and then this is you can see on the map here this long section. There's a warning on here. Point of interest: beautiful canyon. We'll see that in a second. But this is essentially 100 kilometers with no resupply till you get to Avra. Now this is the longest section of the race. One of the toughest section. There is a petrol station just off route here. You can see I've highlighted that on the collection, and then a river crossing. So this is the river crossing that in 2022, when we had more bad conditions, everyone got stuck. This time you can see it had been quite high. You can see the mud is where the water would have been. But by the time we got there, it was pretty easy just to kind of pick your bike up and walk through. It was pretty cold, mind you. As you can probably tell by the gasp when I go in there. But yeah, it was probably halfway up my shins. So yeah, very easy to walk through. You probably could have given it a crack of riding, but you know, you just can't see all the dirt in the water there. You just can't see where you're standing, so it's safer just to pick up and carry rather than bin it and get covered in water in the first 24 hours of the race. So into that nice kind of off-road section, there was a kind of a lead trio, I guess, starting to form. Well, 3 or 4 riders. If I get this flowing again. So as I was saying, there was the groups starting to form at the front here. This is where the petrol station is, and as you can see, it's some usual names there. Let's zoom in and have a quick look. So we had at the front Matteo De Marchi, Justinus Lavica, Ulrich is up there, Elias Civilis, he's another Lithuanian rider, and the kind of the dark horse of the event, Drikas Kotsi. Now he's a Namibian. He's an ex-professional triathlete, and he narrowly missed out on selection for the Namibian team for the Olympics. So he's got a hell of a motor on him, and he was up there right up front with Matteo and Justinus, really pushing the pace. So the 3 of them had went into the remote section together. And then behind that, there was a bit of a chase group. Now, as you can see here, Cynthia's tracker was playing up a little bit, so she's not quite showing in the right place. But Natalie Bayon, she was, you can see her in there, she was right up with a sort of chasing pack of men, and she'd taken the lead in the women's race overnight. So riding through towards Avra, you can see this is a hard section. You can see the dots there, they're starting to spread out a little bit. Some big climbs in there. And then the massive canyon descent down towards Avra where you can resupply. So let's have a look at the descent down to Avra. It's one of the most spectacular places on the course, I think. Certainly really good light mountain bike descent. And yeah, this would have been probably late afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock. Yeah, like just this track's just cut into the side of the canyon, and you can absolutely hammer down it. So yeah, brilliant riding. It's a relief to finally get over that hard section, knowing that you can resupply soon. It was really warm, 25, 26 degrees with a wind, so it was catching people out. A lot of people were sick, myself included. I think you're just chasing your tail all the time, rehydrating. I think I had 3 litres over the course of this afternoon because that's all I could carry. So by the end of the day, sometimes if I ate anything too sweet and sickly, you just end up being sick again or feeling sick. So you're on your limit, just trying to drip feed yourself energy to get yourself through. So yeah, that's the canyon. It is really such a cool place to ride, or drive or anything you wanted to do there, and very remote. So heading into Avra, this is a little town off route for resupply. So you just have to turn off and cut down the road sort of 500 meters, and there's shops and everything you can want there before another section out. And then after that point, resupply is a little bit easier. There's more options, as you can see. And yeah, it's kind of easier to kind of plan ahead a little bit, and you can maybe take a few more risks if you want to. But not personal knowledge and experience in this event says don't take your risk with food and water. If you see something, stop and get it, because like the shops here, they don't kind of always open at the usual hours that you'd think. Back to the map progress then. So let's hit play again, and as you can see, the first riders now they're starting to sort of separate themselves from the pack. This is probably the best on the profile view at the bottom. You can see there's a bit of a gap, Ulrich kind of in the middle, and then a chase pack. I was in this sort of group here, and we were kind of the top, 5 to 15, I think. And Natalie Bayon, she is in there as well. She had a really strong start, and as you can just about see here, it's a bit busy still, but she was ahead of Cynthia. Now heading into night, so this is 6 p.m. Drika's got a bit of a gap on Justinus. I think Justinus had to stop. He did have a few issues with his axis shifting, as per usual. This time he forgot to take his spare battery, so he had to stop and top them up every now and again. Mattea dropped off a little bit, and Elias, he had such a strong ride. So yeah, there was kind of a few riders up here, but it's still early days, so you never can kind of truly predict, what's going to happen. And a lot of people do scratch in this event. And it came to fruition, and that was the case again. So the next checkpoint, as you can see here, 600k from the start. So Drickus was the first person to reach it. So he didn't actually stop overnight. Justinus had to have a little bit of sleep. So once he got to the checkpoint, Justinus then caught him again, and then was able to overtake him and get the lead heading out. Matteo De Marchi, he actually scratched at the checkpoint. He was citing breathing issues. He had the same issues in last year. So I think, maybe he just doesn't get on well with that desert heat and the dryness. A lot of people were suffering. Ulrich came in third, and there's Elias in there. Then this is the group I was in: Alex Kopp, Adam Palin, Thomas Bourret, Cynthia a little bit later. And then it's kind of quite a big chunk of chasers coming through. Let's have a little look at the terrain. So let's find some video. So after Avra, there's a couple of climbs, some sort of wider areas. You're getting quite deserty now, because you're heading south towards the Anti-Atlas. There's a big kind of bowl in between the Atlas Mountains and the Anti-Atlas. This is Alex Kopp. I rode with him in Japan, the Japanese Odyssey. So it's nice to have a little chat, and this was the climb before CP2, followed by another amazing descent down. There's some real long descents here. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see the rocky terrain and the kind of tracks you're riding on. Again, like bike-wise, mountain bike, a hardtail, maybe a full suspension is perfect. You wouldn't want to ride it on a gravel bike. You certainly could, but it would just make it life a little bit difficult. So you can imagine once you get to the top of that climb and you've got this descent down into the checkpoint, it's a bit of a relief to know you've broken the back of this particular section. So that is the descent into checkpoint 2. After that, the next checkpoint is another 300k away. Now we've got some pretty big sections in this, including the old Colonial Road. The Colonial Road is basically built by the French to connect two areas. It's really remote and now it's abandoned. And it's a section that really kind of, I guess, does. It's a key area, I think, and it really does sort of test the. Will make the gaps, let's say, in the overall race. So as you can see on RideWithGPS, this is the checkpoint 2, CP2. The solid red line here denotes tarmac. So there's a load of road through the desert, gradual draggy climb, and then we hit a couple of off-road sections, and then this section here, let me just highlight it. This is the old Colonial Road. So let's just have a little look at that in video. So the road sections, now from a personal point of view, I was up sort of 5th or 6th position at this place. This is where I started to lose my rhythm a little bit. So I kind of built my bike quite late as a Mason prototype, and I hadn't used the handlebars before, and there's quite a bit of taper on the inside of them. And I basically had to pad them out with electrical tape to get the aero bars to grip properly. By this point, it was over 30 degrees, and basically the glue melted on the tape, and my aero bars were kind of swinging up and down like this. So I was with Alex Kopp in that section, and then I got dropped by Alex when I had to stop, and Thomas Bourret caught me. And we all headed into the Colonial Road at night. Now, this isn't from this year's race. This was dark when I did it. I actually bivvied right on top of the Colonial Road. It was spectacular with the stars, and kind of warm as well. It can be cold at night, but it was probably 2 or 3 degrees, and I had a 0-degree sleeping bag, so I just slept at the side of the road. Pretty spectacular. So yeah, at this point, the race kind of started to really take shape. Up front, so Dricus and Justinus were really kind of dragging away now, and Ulrich was starting to establish himself in third place with this chasing group behind. You can see Cynthia; she'd got ahead of Natalie. Now Natalie didn't sleep the first 2 nights, and she was starting to pay the like for the effects of that. And she really kind of had some health issues. When I was at CP2, there was rumours that she'd had a bit of a medical issue. Basically, like everything was swelling up, kind of water retention, and that's a sign that basically I think your kidneys are really struggling and you've been dehydrated and you kind of need to stop and rest. So she had to take a break, and you can see Cynthia still hot on the tails of the guys. Well in the top 10, she took sort of the lead in the women's race, going over the Colonial Road and heading down towards the CP3. Now let's head back to some more video and sort of bring that section of the route to life. So after the Colonial Road, you've got another really tough section. You have to go up this canyon, and it's really it's just steep and loose and rocky. You can kind of see, it's been landslides. There's not really a proper track up there. But this is the last real tough test before that final CP. Got my video upside down here, so if you turn your TV around, it would be fine. But you can see the surface you're fighting against, and Colonial Road in this section back to back really does make it very difficult to save any energy, and it's a kind of a place where you have to just go all in to get through before you run into the final checkpoint, which is in Taffrou, I think the name of the town is. So yeah, it's kind of that's the bit which can make or break. And if you look at the front of the race here, going into the checkpoint, I think Dricker's got there first. So as you can see, there's a bit of a gap. Justinus was in third here. Not quite sure what went on. I think he might have had to sleep, or maybe it's just a tracker issue. And the two of them were basically in the checkpoint together. I think Justinus got there a minute or so before Dricus. He resupplied, Dricus also resupplied, and then Ulrich was in there after. In the meantime, Thomas Bourret, he'd really made a big push into that fourth position. So bear in mind, he was riding with myself, like Alex, myself, Adam, back in this group here. Between CP2 and CP3, he really did push hard over the Colonial Road. I kind of lost Alex and Thomas over the Colonial Road. I think they crossed it in the night, and I camped on top and had my issues with my bars. And I kind of, it's the classic out of sight, out of mind. And yeah, never saw them again, really. And maybe just started to struggle a bit with breathing and things. It's a lot of people, it's just the dust and the dryness really can affect your lungs. And I was starting to get a few issues. I wasn't the only one by a long way, so it's not really an excuse as such. But it was starting to, I was slowing down a little bit, and these guys were pushing a good pace. The front few, Justinus and Dricus were really smashing each other. Ulrich was kind of riding his own race a little bit further back. Probably not quite on his top form, if I'm honest. And Cynthia, again, still riding really strong, and she'd got a substantial gap over Natalie by this point. So it was getting to the stage where it's going to be her race to lose. See, Alex got into the checkpoint. Everyone came in, had a meal. It's a really good resupply there, and it's one you kind of really need to take with some very tough sections coming up. Now this section that the riders are on now, you can see at this point Justinus had got a pretty chunky lead. Dricus had to stop and have a bit of a rest, and you can see this big flat section in the middle, well, kind of false flat downhill. It's a big section of desert. So you cross back between the Atlas Mountains and the anti-Atlas Mountains. It caused a lot of people problems last year, but to be honest, I didn't think it was too bad. I think there had been rain recently, so the sand seemed fairly kind of compacted, and there'd been plenty of cars driving back and forth over it. So yeah, it was soft, but as long as you stayed in the rut and kind of sat back on your saddle, maybe let some pressure out your tyres, and didn't be too aggressive on the pedals, you could ride it pretty easily. I think I put my foot down twice through the whole lot, so it wasn't so bad, and most people got through without issue. After the desert section, there's a series of final climbs. Now you may think that you've kind of broken the back of it. So in 2022, the race actually finished in Agadir, but last year and this year,
obviously we've got quite a bit more up to the finish in Azuria, and this final section is pretty tough, crossing back over the Atlas Mountains. Now if we just zoom in here, so you can see you've got this nice long valley road. This is nice and steady and easy. Some good resupply at the bottom, and then you've got some real steep climbs. Now I think these have only recently been tarmacked. They are tarmacked. They're quite rough and loose, and then you've got some cool off-road sections at the top here. Before a series of rough roads and what we call the Moroccan Stelvio. Now the Moroccan Stelvio is a massive hairpin climb. We'll have a look at that in a second. I just want to start with the sort of off-road descent in that section. Great fun. By this time Adrian Lichty had caught me, but he was riding as a pair, but his partner unfortunately had to scratch, so he was kind of a free agent as such. So we rode together a little bit, and then we kind of backed off a little bit. So this is the kind of riding you're doing in there. It's really cool. Personally, I really enjoyed this section because it was new. The rest of it I'd kind of seen before, so I really like the unknown. I really like the exploratory side of these races. So up until that point, it had all been about just watching who's behind me, who's in front of me, and ticking off the sections. And it was getting a bit tiring mentally, but it was really cool to ride this kind of rough stuff. Some nice, fast, rocky downhills. Good fun. Keep you entertained. After 3 and a bit days on the road. So yeah, that was a nice little break. And then we had the Moroccan Stelvio. So called because this is the top of it. Loads of switchbacks. So that's sort of the top of the final climb. I got there about sunset. And at this point, there's still 100 miles or so left to the finish. I was beginning to get pretty tired, as you can imagine. Same as everyone else. And there was a real battle up front, so let's just get playing again. At this point, Justinus looked like he had a pretty big lead. It was looking almost unattainable from Dricus. I think Justinus started to showboat a little bit as well, if I'm honest. Dricus he was solidly in second position. Ulrich a little bit further behind. He was looking strong in third. And Thomas Bouret, he was a little bit further back now, but he was looking pretty strong in fourth. And then there's kind of a chasing group with myself in there as well. We were a little bit behind by this point. And as you can see, Justinus pushing along, heading towards the coast at Emusan. And Dricus was beginning to close a little bit. So bearing in mind, Dricus could have actually just cruised in for a second position with no problems whatsoever. Instead, he decided to go as hard as he physically could to try and close down on Justinus. But you may notice here, he's just gone off course and went straight to the finish. So he pushed so hard in the end that he dehydrated himself. And basically the race organisations got a phone call from just a local Moroccan because they found him at the side of the road, totally dazed, that he didn't know where he was. And he'd pushed so hard that he basically ended up having to scratch. He was in a bad way, ended up in hospital, needed some rehydration. So that basically meant he pulled out with like 50k to go. And Justinus was able to take the win. Ulrich came in third, although he also, with 100k to go, got knocked off by a dog and broke some ribs. So you never know in the Atlas Mountain race. It was really a surefire podium there. And then Thomas Bouret nearly ended up coming in second. As it was, Thomas came in third position. Uber came through despite his broken ribs, and took second. Elias, really strong ride. He came in fourth with Alex just behind him. And then there's this group here with myself in there. I was ahead of this group, but I started fading in a little bit. Adam Paling came through really strongly. You can see Adrian in there. He's not in the classification. And then Tanguy Ramza, he came through very, very strongly at the finish there. He caught me, tacked me like it was a road race. I stopped for an hour because I was just seeing double. I couldn't pedal anymore. So I came through for 8th. And then Rob Cameron, he came through for 9th. And Omar in 10th. And then you can see the riders coming in. Cynthia, she's really pushing that top 15 position. Well in control in the women's race. And as you can see, put in a solid ride. She was 15th overall. And she took the win in the women's race. Nathalie Benyon, she was a little bit further by this point. I think her issues earlier on really, gave her some grief. She just had to sort of roll in. But she was still top 30, I think, overall, which is a solid effort. I think if she'd have paced things a little bit better, it would be much better for her. And then we've got Hannah Simon. She came in, obviously, visiting from the USA.
So that was a really good, strong ride by her as well. Bearing in mind she's done Tour Divide and Colorado Trail and Arizona and all those great races. So we had a really strong women's podium as well. And then all the riders, you know, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for the complete set of stamps on your brevet card. So the final stamp in the Finnish hotel over in Isoria. If we look at RideWithGPS one last time, it looks kind of flat down to the finish, but I can assure you there's some climbs in here, and it kind of rolls and drags, and it just doesn't come quick enough, especially after all that effort in the preceding days. But you know, once you get there, that's what you're aiming for, just to finish, and just get that final stamp in your brevet card. And here it is. That's for me. That's my final stamp going in. So yeah, I finished 8th, and yeah, it was an okay result. Not amazing. Probably could have done a bit better. Didn't have any major problems, but wasn't exactly flying. But there we go. Live to fight another day. And of course, we had Justinus taking the overall win for the men. Really pleased for Justinus. It's been a long time coming for him. He finally got it right. Not everything. He still made some mistakes. But you know, he's learned from his mistakes of the past, and he's really beginning to get it together. I think he's going to be one of the top dogs to beat in the ultra racing and bikepacking scene over the next few years. And Cynthia as well, probably the longest race she's done. She's done really well at like Unbound XL, Badlands, and you know, the two of them I wouldn't necessarily. I certainly wouldn't categorise them as a bikepacking race. Maybe they just about scrape ultra, but they're kind of one big non-stop effort. So it's really, really good to see that she can bring that kind of fitness and really do well. You know, at these harder events, and Atlas Mountain Race, I really do think it's one of the hardest events out there. There's a lot of climbing, there's a lot of rough terrain, resupply's hard, there's extreme temperature swings. So yeah, she did really amazingly. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what Cynthia can do later in the year. She's got an entry into the Transcontinental race. I think she can do very well there. So yeah, really looking forward to see how that goes for her. So there we have it. That is my race report for the 2024 Atlas Mountain Race. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this stuff. I've got a load more videos coming up over the next few weeks. I've got my own race video. I've got bike checks, gear checks, you know, what I ate. I'll look at other people's bikes, things like that. Hopefully it's all useful content. Please do, if you've got any questions, I'll probably do a Q&A at some point. So put your questions in the comments, and I'll try and do a Q&A and you know, keep this interactive. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for all my sponsors and Redshift for sponsoring this series. So yeah, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.